have another group who do run the banking system. Their names are generally never mentioned much in the papers at all because they're not open to the public. They're not really public figures. And they have their own particular agenda. But you've got to go back to ancient times to the present in this particular society. It has always said, and Albert Pike said this in his own book, Moral and Dogma, for the Masons, the Bible of Freemasonry at the time. He said, those who will not use their own intellect to think for themselves are therefore meat on the table and beasts of burden by choice and consent. Now that really was taught to all the elite, generation to generation. That's a simple explanation they claim as to why you're all down there and they're up there, you see. You're inferior species, you are slaves, and you never complain. If you complain, it's always petitions and please, please, please to a bunch of wolves, and you get nothing done in return for it. It doesn't work, obviously. So they know they're getting to a step where, you understand, democracy, even this farce, I call it a farce, there's never been democracy, but the farce of democracy is to be eliminated altogether eventually in the planned society, where you have your own communitarian areas like they have in Britain. They've got regions set up in the States as well. They take power away from your local education authorities, they give it to the state or even between 3 states. So it gets further and further away. The ability for the ordinary person to go and complain about anything to a politician or a representative or an official goes further and further away, and that trains you that it is remote. It is remote until eventually you don't even think about complaining to them. It's out of the question. You take it for granted you're now simply ruled by experts and scientists, and that's how they've already trained the youngsters. Youngsters today are already trained in this. They're getting that at school, and it's a better way, they claim, and they can do away eventually with elections altogether. Technocracy is a technique now we've watched in Europe. They place their own boys from the Central Bank of Europe right into countries as the prime ministers, no election. That's to happen elsewhere too, and in the States as well. I think in the U.S., though, they'll have a lot more trouble. They do expect resistance. More really, what you would expect in the States is just simple not even rebellion, be on a personal level when people start losing their homes en masse, that type of thing. Or they've been told there'll be no more private property under Agenda 21, and they simply burn your house down with you in it, or you evacuate it. That's really what's happening. So in the U.S., there will be ragtag, sporadic, uncoordinated, non-disciplined rebellion on small levels. But look what they're ready for. Look at the ammunition they ordered in for the Homeland Security for close-quarter battle. You don't use pistol dum-dum bullets, hollow points, for overseas. You can't use them overseas against other armies. You can only use them on your own population. But they've got 750 million rounds ordered. What do you think that's for? What do the people out there think that is for? It's not for target practice. It's too expensive for target practice. You use the ordinary rounds for that. It's simply for it to be used on the public. So the elites are taking no chances whatsoever that anything possibly could go wrong. But it also is very ominous because you're looking at a war situation where those who will represent government, just like the henchmen in the Soviet Union, will you always make sure that, and they select the guys, they pre-select the guys out of the armies. Every soldier's given psychological tests on the way. And they know the ones and how many of them they can count on to be the new Soviet army in America.
That's right. And the ones that are good, they send them to fight the insurgents that are actually financed by the bankers. And it's a full spectrum dominance, false system where they just need an excuse to be in a country. So they fund both sides to create the fake war. And then the ones that like to be psychopaths and dominate and control everybody, they bring them back here and put them in command.
To do, and they've been doing that for years now. Every person who applies to be a police officer has a psychological evaluation. They don't want an IQ over 95 or 98, but they want the brute force type ones, the ones who get off on slaughter and power and watching civilians quiver in front of them. That's the type they've been employing very deliberately. Remember, nothing is happenstance.
Okay, well, let me say this to you, because I know they're scientific. They study every facet through the military-industrial complex. But the globalists are not invincible. I mean, give me your take on that.
It depends how you see it. Understand, most of what's happening today is through almost perfect conditioning, generation by generation, through the school system. Is taken over by entertainment and television, and people are pretty well perfectly conditioned. They really will adapt to almost anything. They know this by the studies they've done already. The public, the general public, will adapt to almost every situation that you...
Let me stop you right there. I was on an airplane and even wrote his name down and told Ted Anderson about it, and he looked at it on his iPhone, and then later I lost the guy's name, but he was one of the managing director presidents of one of the biggest banks in New York, and I was being flown up there to be on The View. So I was in first class with him. He'd come to Austin to visit his dad that was a retired general. And he knew who I was, I later learned in the talk. And he said, look, people will muddle through anything. Whatever we do, they'll just adapt to it. And we basically use that against them. And I told him, no, humanity will prevail. It was kind of like Winston talking to O'Brien. But, Alan, I'm going to be honest with you. There's only one area with you that I don't totally agree with you. And that's that they've got their act completely together. They have general programs. They've studied things. They're worried about the wild card individual. You've talked about that. But I've also heard you talk about, the elite will give us leaders and the elite will do all this. Well, I know I'm for real. I know that I came out of nowhere by going to Access TV and stuff like that. I know you're for real and not controlled. And I know so many other people in the system itself, not just independents like us, that don't like what's happening. And I do see a bigger awakening, and I do see victories. People can't believe I snuck into Bohemian Grove. They think it must have been fake. People can't believe that, other stuff, like they think my David Gergen is fake. Well, no, they never just went and stood outside the main entrance to Madison Square Garden during the RNC in 2004, knowing bigwigs would come in to confront them. I mean, that's not rocket science to know, okay, there's one of the back entrances where all the VIPs are coming in. Let's sit here and eat hot dogs, at this stand for an hour and see, and at the time smoke cigarettes, see who comes in here. Hey, that's David Gergen. Let's get him. People who sit there on the bench cannot imagine men of action. So all I'm saying is people have to believe they can take action, because I know laying down's not going to do anything. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, they know consistently that 80-odd% of the public will do nothing. And again, they've got all the statistics there. Other countries have measured it. They did it with the Soviet Union. Dzerzhinsky said at the time, he says you can beat them, you can starve them. He says, will they turn around and fight? He says, no. He says they'll eat each other. Now, that wasn't the first time in history that's happened with overwhelming force. But the public here haven't seen that. You can read about the brutality on the occasional individual. We see them tasering folk when they're down, unconscious, that kind of stuff. We see them kicking, punching them. But again, we always take it as to be the isolated incident, you see. It hasn't happened to most people yet. And because of that, they still think it's been exaggerated when these cases come on television or the internet or whatever. It's not happened to them. They'll actually do all they can to try and keep normalcy, even though you're going through an abnormal situation.
And to keep the illusion of law and order while they break the law. Absolutely.
At the top, let's be honest about it, they break the law all the time at the top. And in so many ways. I mean, if the American people truly were American people, remember, the American person of today is not the American person of the 1950s or 40s. They wouldn't have put up with what's happening today.
Well, that's the hormones. I mean, that's the hormones. As you know, people eat, compared to the 50s diet, a lot healthier now, and they're a lot more obese. That's on record. They're just killing us with the hormones. And they love it. It's fun.
Yeah. And but also it's to do with a massive education. If you were ever to try and truly alter the main thing, I mean, Lenin said the same thing, Stalin said it too, you must pay your police, your military, and your teachers the best amounts of money and take care of them, because the teachers especially train the next generation. They indoctrinate the next generation in the agenda. It's not the same agenda. It's updated, just like a computer gets updated.
And by the way, I saw this article where a 6-year-old girl, we'll talk about when we get back briefly, they don't let the parents discipline their children. Then the kids get out of control. Then they handcuff you, taser you, put you in a mental institution. It's like only the warrior ants can engage in discipline. It's ending parenthood. We'll be right back. You know, it's depressing to hear some of the things Alan Watts says, but it's better than living in denial. But I know we can beat these people. I know that if you have a total awakening by a large enough minority to the full spectrum of just how bad it is and how this is a false reality to a great extent, a false environment they're trying to complete. They're not done with it, but they're accelerating their program. And they're accelerating their program because from my research, they got behind in the 80s and 90s. Now they're trying to catch up, and now they're at warp speed. They're at warp speed. We're going to go back to Alan Watt here in a moment. He's agreed to stay 30 minutes the next hour, and I'll get to Skywalker, Christopher, Judy, Richard, Jessica, and others for your questions. For both of us, the toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. If you're watching on Prisonplanet.tv, you can notice we're carrying 2 new films, Farmageddon. We've got the director coming on, what is it, Friday. Amazing film, how the system is waging war on farmers and how Big Agra is funding that to shut them down. All part of Agenda 21. We carry Behind the Green Mask, You and Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey and Infowars.com. Also, the 6-hour documentary, The Toronto Hearings on 9/11, the latest info proving the inside job, amazing, by our friend and director, Dan Dix. All available at Infowars.com. And all orders get the Citizen Rulebook, the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, famous quotes. Also, Longevity, the best products out there, discounts for our listeners when they go to InfoWarsTeam.com and sign up to be distributors, and your purchase makes this broadcast possible. Look right here. Got my pollen burst. Instead of drinking coffee, I used to have coffee in the morning, coffee at noon, coffee at 5. Didn't give me the kick that a pollen burst with all the B vitamins, and yes, it's got some caffeine, but about half as much as a regular cup of coffee. Every other energy drink I ever had, I hated. This is full of vitamins and minerals. Will blow you away. It is so awesome. A good, clean energy I need right through to shoot the nightly news tonight and everything else. This is a godsend. I've lost over 40 pounds taking the Tangy Tangerine, Beyond Tangy Tangerine, that isn't even advertised. Isn't even advertised as weight loss. Once you get the minerals and things you need, it's incredible. So again, Beyond Tangy Tangerine, discounted and available at InfoWarsTeam.com or 877-551-1301 if you have questions. You can order on the site or sign up and become a distributor. Alan, I was mentioning this KENS San Antonio article, and then I've got another one here. This is out of 13 WMAZ. Police handcuff 6-year-old girl for misbehaving, and they said, you're not allowed to spank your kids, but we're going to taser them or handcuff them, and they're charging her with resisting and now want to put her in the juvenile hall where she'll probably get gang raped and learn how to have diseases. What is this all about? We're about to go to break, but tell us briefly.
Again, it's a Sovietization. They used these techniques in the Soviet system, and they're training the public here to get used to it as well. Pretty well everything is happening is Sovietization. The regionalism, the free trade agreement all came out of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations is one of the main spearheads that control all of this in the U.S. and across the world too. They run the EU Parliament. And they boast on their own website in Britain that it was their members that brought in the personal income tax and the property tax in the States and in Britain. I mean, these guys want to bring in their planned society, which they rule over totally, with peasants going back to renting. And, of course, to get the cash for renting, you've got to be very politically correct. Look at interviews. I get lots of folk telling me about interviews now. It's all PC stuff. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? It's all the latest upgrade in PC. And if you get that job, then you can pay your rent.
It's all about trendy. You don't have thoughts. You're successful because you do whatever they're told.
Yeah. And people will adapt into what is politically correct.
Stay there. I want to bring up to you how HBO's pushing pedophilia now. Why are the elite pushing that? Alan Watts, our guest.
In Texas, Alex Jones.
I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Alan Watt of CuttingTheMatrix.com is our guest.